Hey everyone, we've been making our study of a single object. We started with a gesture, then we turned it into our sighting and mapping, then we transformed that into our contour study, and then this time we added our value map onto it. And then in our last video, we created a rendering in graphite, which we didn't do in our basic shapes. These were just more made up. So we're trying to do it real time here with the actual object. I did take a picture of it just for a little bit of reference, but I'm trying to really look at the subject itself to get the information. And this was a pretty slow study when you're building it with graphite, but I'm going to switch it and do one really quickly with some charcoal so that you can see kind of how the different media react different ways. I had taken a piece of my higher quality mixed media board and I tore it in half. If you wanted to do it on a full sheet, you could, but I just thought I'd do these a little smaller. So I'm going to put this one aside and we're going to build it with some charcoals now. If you want, you can use your map to do a trace and transfer, but I am gonna just do it where I redraw it, especially since the pear isn't too super challenging. Oh, and we also had discussed building a couple compositional thumbnail studies. This will become more important when our subjects become more complex, but getting in the habit of sketching out and seeing what will happen if you make it big and in the center, lower, including a box, shifting it off to the right, and so forth, just trying some different approaches. Okay, so I'm going to use a similar composition to the other one, and going to do with my bind charcoal just a little quick, very light gesture map. I'm becoming pretty familiar with my subject now, so it should go a little faster. I'm going to do a little contour. Actually, I'm going to start with the gesture. Turn it into a contour drawing. Very light. I want to include my negative space. I had kept my negative space on this one really pale, but I'm going to do it a little differently on this one where I make the background darker first. It's a lot faster this way. Okay, so here we go. Oh, but before that I am going to kind of not mark out a little bit of where my value shifts are going to go. So I'm looking at my subject. I'm also looking at my value map, making a couple little notes. About how my shadows are working and where my lights and darks will go. Okay, so I'm going to try and start with putting in the negative space. Oops, I got to put my stem in there. So just a little map. I'm going to switch from my bind to my compressed charcoal. And I don't want it super, super dark, but I'm going to make it a little darker in the background. I'm using my charcoal on its side. This is why a lot of people that draw like charcoal, because they can make a study really quickly. Just gonna kind of have this fade out a little bit. I'm going to move from my negative and my dark into another area that's not quite so critical, and I'll do my subject last. So I'm going to work into my shadow. Trying to set up a figure ground relationship here. I have this shadow kind of taper out. I'm using pretty horizontal marks, and I'm floating this material over the surface. And then I'll move into the subject. Looking at my map, looking at my actual subject here. I'm going to kind of open and close the edge of the pear on this side. Reshape a little bit right here. A little line work. And then I want to use my charcoal pencil to lay in a little bit of my detail. Sharpen this. Trying not to smush my hand over it. I could put a sheet of paper there if I needed to. And I'm treating this like a little complicated cylinder / cube. I'm being thoughtful with my line work, my mark making. I'm using some of these open and closed edges that we've talked about. And I'm just going to use my charcoal pencil to do a little bit more shading. It's really easy now to just look at your drawing and to forget about looking at your subject, but now would be the time, you know, to really look at your map, look at your object, look at your notes here. And I'm going to use some of this hatching to kind of build up some of these darks again. I have a little reflective light here that I'm keeping. I'm going to keep that open. It's these little moments that really help. Make it look more believable because it kind of works with your the way that your eye would see lights and darks and the atmosphere around a subject. So you can see that this took a fraction of the amount of time to bring this to life. Compared to doing it with the graphite. So a lot of times people will start with a drawing like this before they start a painting, so they can really quickly see where they want to have their values go when they're shifting of the forms. Hold it up so away from me so I can kind of see. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it like that for now. I might come back, walk away from it for a minute and see if there's some things I can edit or adjust. But I really quickly knocked out a volumetric little pear without quite as much time as it took to make the graphite drawing. It has a different feel to it, obviously, but definitely a form and space. Okay, I'm excited to see yours. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.